Bismillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another marriage conversation with your sister Naima B. Robert. I am so excited today to welcome one of my favorite families in the dunya, and that is Coach Nazir and his two beautiful wives, mashallah, Coach Fatima and Coach Naila. Guys, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
We've been here before, alhamdulillah, numerous times. It's always wonderful to sit with you and I guess just soak in your vibe, really, mashallah, tabarakallah. Tell us a little bit about, your family dynamic. For those who are not familiar with you, tell us how you came to be the family that you are today.
All right. Yeah, I guess I need to start Coach Nadir. Well, what happened initially was when I was a teenager, I saw this girl, freshman year of high school, and I was like, I'm gonna marry her. So 5 years later, we ended up becoming married after a whole lot of stuff occurred and ended up accepting us. This is at our Christian high school, by the way.
Wow.
All right, so we were both Christian at the time. I saw her, there was my girlfriend at the time. We were together, we were apart, all kind of stuff like that. I started studying Islam, introduced to her. She became Muslim. We recognized, look, we had to do better, and we got married. We were young. I was 19 years old at the time.
Wow.
And so we were married, started our family, wanted to change our entire lives and lifestyles. We be Christian, of course, being Muslim, and this whole new thing, changed our name, all of that. And grew a family, had 6 children at the time. So we did 15 years, had 6 children. And then Coach Nyla came. Okay. See, I was open, I'm Muslim, so I want to experience all of Islam to begin with. I was not pursuing or looking to practice polygyny. I wanted to, that's always a dream. But I thought I had to have a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of stuff and all these things. Long story short, the circumstances did permit themselves, and I had talked with her wakil and stuff like that regarding polygyny. Wasn't sure about it and so on, but part of Allah. End up marrying Coach Knox. So after 15 years marriage, we began our journey, and we had a son, and then we had our youngest son with Coach Fatima. And we had 2 more sons, but also had 2 bonus children. So that means, if you want to do the math, I have 2 bonus children as well. So I have 10 biological children. Coach Nyla and I had 3. Coach Fatima and I had 7, and then she has 2 children already who are now my bonus children as well, a son and a daughter. So now our entire family consists of the 3 of us parents, did 12 children. I've been married to Coach Fatima for 26 years now, and Coach Nyla for 11.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah.
Yeah, a nutshell.
That's a nice nutshell. I like that nutshell. That's really, really good, mashallah. So you guys are rolling 15 deep, mashallah, tabarakallah. Amazing. I love it. All right, so okay, let's dive right into it, okay? Because I know that people who are here, of course, they're going to be looking at you guys thinking, oh, wow, this is goals, right? Because mashallah. Or some people are like, oh, worst nightmare. Oh, my goodness. If my man did ever. Oh, no, it couldn't be me. So I would love to hear from each one of you. For the people for the viewers, for the listeners, from your vantage point in this dynamic, what have you experienced as the benefits of this family that you have built? I guess we can start with the head of the family, I guess, Coach Nadir. What would you say have been the benefits of polygyny for you?
Well, first it has to be a caveat too, because for your viewers and everybody who's watching, you have to recognize we are in our what I call the chapter 11. All right, chapter 11. So we wouldn't be having this conversation chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so it looks good now because we put it in the work. So we do have to make that caveat, because if this goes, then you have to recognize there's a whole period of time. And when you're writing a book or seeing a good movie or something, there's the ups, the downs, the pitfalls, the plot, the triumphs and the tragedies that go along with it. Okay, so with that being said, when it comes to the benefits of polygyny are massive. If you're asking me as an individual, one is that it requires that a man become more. Okay, you have to be above average, or at least strive to want to have that ambition to become more. All right. If you feel you got your goal and you made it and that's just it, then you have nowhere to go from there but down.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so as a man, that has allowed me to expand my family, because my philosophy, I adopted the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ for my life philosophy. And he said, and he talked about, in paraphrasing in English, there are 3 things that follow you. Basically, after you die, after your book is closed, there are 3 things that can still benefit you after death. All right, and one of those things are righteous children that pray for you. And the key word is being righteous children that pray for you. So I wanted to anchor that in for future generations that I would not even meet until, inshallah, Yom Al-Qiyamah or Jannah. So I want to righteous children pray for you. We want to change our names. We did change our lives. We want to change future generations. So that's one way. Then, of course, the Sarf-Jariyah and the beneficial knowledge that you leave. So that's how I live. So one of the things is that it's allowed me to become more of the man, expand my family, to be able to teach them things that I never knew versus giving them the things, the material things I never had. So
no, hold on a second. Whoa. Let's have that again. Let's say it again for the people in the back. Just drop that one more time. I love that. Please share that again.
It requires me to give them the things that I never knew versus teaching them the things I never knew versus giving them the things or the material things that I never had. So that's what actually changes generations, by being able to change their mindset and give them something better, which is Islam, which is sweet. We all 3 of us came from Kufr to Islam. So we understand the stench and the smell and the filth of it to get this deen of Islam, and it's so sweet. So we wanted to make sure we had that. And I wanted to make sure it goes through for next generations. And with polygyny, it can do that because you have a bigger family. It requires you to be a bigger leader. And, you know, that's some of the basic benefits right there. But also as a man, I feel it's one of the most natural forms of marriage. Okay, so, you know, you're not, in knowing the history, I mean, Dr. Nancy Cartwright wrote a good book called Public Vows. And she talked about how the transition to come, how monogamy is put out front. It's only been for the last couple of centuries. So when I talk about it's an ancient solution to a modern day problem, it really is, because as a man, you know, there are things that we do and we're different from women. So looking at our whole history of being providers and protectors and being able to exert personal power, what I call the 3 Ps, it's inherent upon us. If you want to strive and become a bigger man and better and lead a society, that requires you to become a man of value who lives by your values. That requires you to do king stuff, you know, even if it's only in your own home, because you still have to answer to Allah. You know, so that's some of the benefits I see from there, just on a lower level.
That's a pretty high low level, I can say, mashallah. Alhamdulillah. One of the things that obviously it's a different take on it, I think, because very often when polygyny is spoken about, you know, in our kind of modern day Muslim culture, it's horror stories, right? It's horror stories. From where I'm sitting, a lot of shaming of men and shaming of women who don't mind being a second, third, fourth wife. You know, there's a lot of emphasis on the negatives. There's also a lot of emphasis on the pain of the first wife, I think. And I think the experience of the first wife is kind of given precedence in the culture, in the narrative. So I'd love to speak to that, sis, inshallah, if you could share with us, not to say, because I know that we've talked before, and I will share the footage actually, and I'll link it in the description, when you talked about your own journey coming to terms with, you know, with this new dynamic. So I know that it's not all sunshine and roses, but I'd love it if you know, if as the original wife, you've been married for, at the time, 15 years, was it? What would you say have been the benefits of polygyny for you?
For me, let me see. It allowed me to understand the potential of who Coach Nadir could become and who I could become.
Wow.
So I had to understand that he wasn't the 9th grade 14-year-old I met all way back in the day. And he had to evolve, and I was a part of his timeline. He was a part of my timeline. And I didn't get a say in who else was going to be on that timeline. So I had to understand growth through polygyny. And that means becoming closer with Allah. So polygyny allowed me I was focused on Allah, but not enough. And I had to learn through polygyny that I need to grow, and I needed him to be removed to a certain degree so that I can do that. So, and then he needed to do that. And then Nyla needed to do that, and she'll speak on that herself. And I always say that the beauty about the three of us is that we have the ability to tell our own experience through polygyny. And that's the power of OPR, is that there's three of us. I don't know if it's going to be 4 of us one day, but throw that out there real quick. This is not cemented in my mind. I don't know, I thought it was when it was just me and him, but I wasn't a fool either. So I said, man is going to want to practice all areas of Islam. I said, well, why would he come along and say, well, I don't want to do that. I just want to practice these things. And it just leave that to the side. That to me is a fool's errand to think that. So for me, it allowed more time for me to be there for my daughters who were growing and developing. And they needed to have more deeper conversations with me, as I have 4 daughters and 1 bonus daughter. That's a lot of girls. But I learned that I needed to become more available so that they could be elevated within this too, because it was not easy for not just the 3 of us, but the children. It wasn't easy. So to be able to educate them and refocus my energy on my Lord mattered, because if I didn't do that enough, then I was going to lose my way, and this would never came to pass.
SubhanAllah.
So it was all about evolution. It was all about empowerment. It was all about having enough time to reconnect with Allah. It's part of my test. This was always going to be. I know people think it's something that was man-made and manufactured, but Allah always knew. So this was always going to be this way. So to swim in the river of denial was not something I wanted to continue to do. So it's beneficial to me in that way, where we focus me to Allah and my children.
Wow, that's really, really deep. Jazakallahu khairan for that, and like lots of food for thought, because I think the majority of viewers, if they're married, they probably will be the only wife or the first wife. May I ask, did your feelings towards him change? Because I know a lot of sisters feel like, if my husband did that, X, Y, Z. What was your experience?
Come on, Z.
Oi, oi. This is a British-based podcast.
My feelings changed in that I was afraid for him. I was afraid for him because I was concerned whether or not he'd be able to do it long term. And then with that, me too. Because if he can't do it, I can't. I didn't think. I had to understand that we all had a responsibility to the success of polygyny, including me. Now, it wasn't my job to destroy it or try to destroy it, because it was going to stand on its own. But I didn't want to create chaos in my own life. So I had to understand that things are going to change for him, which means things are going to change for us all of us, everyone that was involved. And knowing that this world did not support him, that scared me. Because I'm like, who's he going to go to if there's an issue, if he needs guidance? Because the leadership clearly is not being that. So I was concerned about his journey and would they be able to uplift him and help our family. And I didn't have much confidence in that. So I think if we were in a situation or in a country that embraced him in order to help him, in order to help our leadership, our family's imam, then I would have been like, okay, cool, I get it. I don't like it, but I understand it. I respect it. So you don't always have to like everything, but you must respect it, especially when you're Muslim, especially in Islam. I see so many Muslims be so disrespectful and divisive when it comes to polygyny. It makes me very angry because they make it about the 3 of us and what Coach Nadir did and all this stuff. So I said, don't keep saying what he did, say he got married again as polygyny. Because when you start saying what someone did, then you put a negative connotation to it. I don't like that. So that was my thing. You're disrespecting Allah and you're disrespecting the Sunnah of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that really angered me. But I was mostly just concerned about the leadership. And I'm like, what is he going to do now? Because he don't have anyone to help him that I thought was someone that qualified to help.
MashaAllah. JazakAllahu khairan. So I'm assuming you remained friends. Alhamdulillah. 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 Okay, so MashaAllah, sis, you came into this situation, and I know, MashaAllah, a lot of the viewers either maybe have been in that situation or maybe thinking, well, who would that person be? So for you, as the subsequent wife coming in, you had 2 children of your own. What would you say have been the benefits of this dynamic of polygyny for you?
I think, like, all around the board, we talk about growth. Growth, I think, was the biggest thing, biggest benefit. And it's a continual process of growth, of growing, learning people, learning personalities, learning different things. So yeah, growth is high there. Now, personally, because everybody don't have the same situation, the same dynamic, or anything like that, my mentality was this big family. I'm a big family person. I like big. I know this or not. So, I like a big family. We had blended. My family was blended when I grew up. Now,
Right.
we didn't practice polygyny, or it wasn't no polygyny we didn't practice. And, because that was a whole other story when they, caught with, being married to someone who's married again.
Yeah.
But it was the different, I had that, I knew what that felt like. I like the joy of togetherness and family and things like that. And that's what I saw in my mind initially. When we talk about that, talk about how it wasn't like that before. So the growth and clarity, and not just, because sometimes I can look at it and I say, okay, well, I came into this, being naive because of what I saw or what I thought. But I don't think so. I don't look at it as being naive. I look at it as being hopeful, wholesome, I guess.
2 sides of the same coin, Yani. 2 sides of the same coin.
Because in my mind, I saw where we are. I saw that. So this is not something that, it's a journey. So it's a journey, it's growth, it's learning. And to me, that is a beautiful benefit of polygyny, period. Whether it's, our story or anyone else's, if you're willing to grow, if you're willing to learn, if you're willing to take yourself out of the equation where it's just only about you and your feelings and your wants and your desires, those type of things, then you open your mind and you open your heart and you open yourself up to learning more and growing more and being well-rounded, instead of seeing something as a one-sided type of thing. So yeah, growth was the biggest benefit. The beautiful family is an additional benefit. And I did come from being, and I came from being a single parent twice around. However, those who are a little bit familiar with, the story and the channel and everything like that, I was raised by a single mother who was raised by a single mother, so that wasn't anything that was new to me. I wasn't a person that was just like, yeah, let me go seek and searching for a husband type of thing, because seriously, that wasn't really what
you knew.
I grew up, so it was like, okay, yeah, I'm a woman, I can do it.
I can take care of it. I can take care of this. Yeah.
However, when you grow and you mature and you realize that that's not what it's supposed to be about, when you want to share your triumphs with people, when you want to, have companionship, when you want to do that and do that the right way, marriage is that part, and I've had a failed monogamous marriage, if you will, and these different things like that. So it wasn't about whether it was monogamy or polygyny. It was about if this is a right fit, if this is something that works, if this is something that can grow, if this, if the leadership is there. So being able to find that and to build on that and to grow with that for what we are right now is just the benefits outweigh any and everything. It will outweigh the negative comments. It'll outweigh the chapter 1, 2, 3, 4.
The chapter 11 is worth it. Mashallah. Alhamdulillah. Maybe it's been chapter 9, 10, 11 have been worth it. Alhamdulillah. I have a question for you, sis, because you mentioned that you grew up with a single mom, and obviously you had your own single mom experience, which, you know, we're familiar with that dynamic in the West. It's kind of like, okay, I'll just take care of things. You know, that's just what we do, right? We're strong. We can deal with it. Was it difficult for you to submit to, look at the face. Not to you. No, I use that word. It's a trigger word you see around here. So I say the word submit, but was it easy for you to accept the leadership of, you know, Coach Nadir and kind of be a part of this particular whole? Or what was that journey like for you?
The word, that's a beautiful word. And I think we have to stop looking at it as something negative. You know,
agreed.
If I'm a independent Black woman, I can do whatever I want to.
Agreed. Yes, girl. Preach it. Yes.
That's what's
talk to it.
It's constantly given, and I think that is one of the lies that, you know, we were fed, and you know that a lot of young girls are fed. You know, it's like that whole, you know, make sure your education is right and this, not whatever, thinking that you have to go to university, thinking you have to go to all this other stuff, not thinking that your education is all around you. You can choose and you can grow and you can learn from everything around you. So putting a lot of the natural stuff on the back burner, which is the, you know, having a family, you know, they're getting married, having a family and growing as a unit, that, you know, it messes people up in that framework. And that's what happened with me. Like, I had this thought in my mind at 14. Seriously, I remember telling my mom, asking, can I just have a kid, you know, or whatever, and kick the man to the curb? Like, that was
wow. That's deep.
That's what I saw. And she was like, yeah, I guess you could, but why would you do
It's a possibility. I mean, it's an option, right? She's thinking it's an option. Okay, you could do it. Go on.
When you grow up and you deal with it in real life, it's hard, you know. And yeah, you want these other things, but when you want to raise well-rounded children, it's hard to do that on your own, by yourself. It reminds me of kind of like the Kiyosaki Rich Dad Poor Dad. I say he has more information from these different sides. Because he has two different dads from these two different, well, no, not that, we got to be careful with how we say that. But you know, this rich dad and this poor dad. So being able to really think about it and be truthful about it and honest about it. Yeah, I can be stubborn. I can have my ego. I can do that and say, well, I can do this. I know how to do this. I don't need this. I don't need that. But when you're by yourself and reflecting on what you want your life to look like, what you want your family to look like, you know that it's a whole lot better when somebody else or other people have your back and are on the same team as you. It lightens that load. And people can say, well, you know, oh, you get all the benefits because you came from being single and all this other stuff. I still could have done it, still continue. I wasn't destitute. The thing is that you got to realize what you want in your life and how you want to have that, what you want your legacy to look like, especially when it comes to the children. I feel like our children they're so far ahead and have so much privilege, and we remind them about the privilege that they have all the time because of the dynamic that we have. They have 3 loving parents and their siblings and everything like that have went through ups and downs through life, went through the trial and tribulations. We don't hide the negative from them, because you know that with the ups come the downs.
Of course.
With the sunshine comes the rain. With these different things. Now we're careful with how we give them information. But I feel like because of that, they are light years ahead of a lot of people, and they are light years ahead of us. You know, like I just said earlier, about giving them or providing them the knowledge and, you know, the growth that we didn't have. So it's just a beautiful thing once you get out of your own way, and me coming from that saying that, well, I can do this, I can do that, and everything like that, kind of almost a serve your purpose type of thing. Because I've been was in that mentality too. Like, okay, well, this man, you serve his purpose, you know, the specific purpose that I want for you, and like, is that what you're gonna do when you dealing with me? When you're dealing with me, I noticed that in a lot of our comments too. Women say, well, the men should be like this, and they should it's like you want control over everything, and sometimes you have to. It's so easy to want that. It's so easy to say, well, you do this for me, but what are you willing to give or give up in return?
Boom! I love it. I love it. MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah. jazakAllahu khairan, guys. Okay, so for families who are currently thinking about growing the family, you know, marrying again, for people who are in polygynous marriages right now, what would you say as a collective are some things to remember, whether from whoever's point of view, whether it's the man who's contemplating it, whether it's the wife who is seeing her husband or having a conversation with her husband about this, or the other woman who is, you know, considering entering that family, or families who are, you know, already in that situation? What are some things that they should remember, things to bear in mind?
Well, here's the thing. One of the reasons we formed and started OutstandingPersonalRelationships.com and our YouTube channel is to provide those resources that we didn't have. You know, when we look to our spiritual leaders, whether it be the imams or different or divine, everything else, they can tell us the fiqh of marriage. They can tell us the do this, do that type stuff, or what must be there, what must not. That's it. When it comes to the emotional maturation, we don't get that type of talk. We get some basic hadith, which do have wisdom, but you have to seek it out yourself. It's not something that's structured. Yeah. Okay. So one of the things is to understand that there are many different dynamics. So that's why, like, if a person goes to our YouTube channel, they'll see well over 100 videos coming from many different things that you're not really gonna find on YouTube that has billions of hours of videos. Right?
Yeah.
You gonna come across stuff like never seen it, never heard it talked about. Just really on a different level. So one, understand that there are many different dynamics. Two, also understand that the man is the one who practices religion. Okay, he's the one who practices religion. Like, my wives don't practice religion. Yeah, we are part of a religious dynamic, but I'm the one who actually practices it. So the wisdom, they'll tell you shortly what's a mind, what some of their best stuff is I already know. But as a man, a couple of different things. One is that right now, a lot of the things you'll hear in society is so woman, female centric that your masculinity is now toxic. Being a man, or being a leader, or being assertive, or being aggressive when time needs to be. It's like, we want you to just simply be a woman with a penis. That's not gonna ride. That's not how we are. Men are different than women. You know what I'm saying? And a normal man with 10 times the testosterone level of women is a normal man. That's just normal. We have to understand what's real. So the things to keep in mind is, one is to have the conversation. Be open enough to discuss and have the conversation. Be open enough to receive the conversation. And I also let brothers know, because they say, okay, have the conversation. Well, how do I start it? How can I do it? Listen, man, blame it on us. Blame it on us. Use what's called third party. It's third party.
You heard it, guys. Okay, you heard Coach Nadir. If you want to have a conversation about polygyny, you're not sure how to broach it with the wife, just blame Coach Nadir and Coach Nyla and Fatima. That's it.
I came across this. This is real simple. Here's your line. No, I was scrolling on YouTube.
Script.
I saw this video of this couple. It was polygyny. What you think about that? I want to watch it with you. You sit back and like, whoa. What you think about that?
The sisters will tell us when we coach them. And my husband showed me, he sent me your video. I'm like, girl, child.
Do you have like an onboarding playlist? Like these are the videos to watch to have the conversation.
He's not even home. He might be in traffic, just fire one off. And it's like, you talking about your life and you talking about me. Or whatever way we got to open up the conversation.
Right.
We do it. Shots fired at us.
You'll take it. It's okay. That's your job. That's your space. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so I hold on. I just want to just dig a little bit deeper here, because I hear you on the kind of the female-centric current dynamic. And again, I think that the conversation in the public space amongst Muslims is very first wife centric, actually, very emotional and first wife centric. There's a narrative about polygyny that centers on the first wife's experience. And I know that from hearing men speak, it's almost as if there isn't clear conversation, an honest conversation about polygyny in terms of the benefits and I don't know what's the opposite of a benefit. I guess the costs, the benefits and costs. Okay. So, what it will take from you and also what you will gain from it. Right. So there's, the narrative about, yeah, get another one, bro. Yeah, innit. Yeah. It's kind of like locker room type of, it's kind of like locker room type of joshing type of, like bigging you up. Yeah, the big man. But sometimes the conversation isn't actually a very honest conversation about, dude, this is actually going to take X, Y, and Z from you as the man. Do you think that there is that lack of kind of honest, look, let me lay it all out for you? Do you think that's happening, or is it just kind of what I'm seeing?
Well, here's the thing though. See, we're talking about polygyny as though it's some type of weird thing. Polygyny is simply a form of marriage. So similarly, if you're talking to someone who's single, never been married, clearly, because they're single, then you're talking about monogamy. There can be some changes to your life. There can be some expectations. There can be some adjustments. There's going to be some growth needed. And by the way, most of them fail, right? So are we saying, hey, are we having that same conversation with monogamy? Are men also leading the way and letting them know? They say, okay, cool. Go ahead, get hitched, do your thing, figure it out. Do the trial and error method. Because that's all that's really left with polygyny. Right? So this shouldn't be restricted to polygyny. The challenge is this. If you're not only talking about marriage, you're trying to win and be good at marriage anyway, and monogamy obviously the first marriage. You should be good at that. All right, because if you're good at that, other people are going to recognize that you may have other doors open to you should you want to practice polygyny. See, it's funny because women are like, okay, they're successful at that, or I'm going to roll the dice over here with this. They're different options. But are men letting it know? Well, first of all, the most successful polygynous marriages that we are aware of keep things quiet. And they keep it quiet. They don't want to be ostracized. They don't need the outside pressure. They don't need to open the door for Shaitan to come in. We consider that as well. Like, okay, cool. We're good. We're at a safe space. We're good now. Families going out and want to go. We, overcome a lot of things, had a lot of growth. Do we go ahead and put out information that can help people kind of reverse engineer what we did without staying in personal relationships and do that? Or do we just succeed quietly and do our thing like most successful polygynous couples? And we have to weigh the options. Okay, well, this could be beneficial knowledge that weighs heavy for us on your opinion. Right? And the Prophet ﷺ also said that the best people are those who help the most people. And I'm like, you know what? We can actually do something right now with technology that our ancestors never had the ability to do.
True.
We can be around for our great grandchildren to see where they came from. Live, young, have a few gray hairs, they coming, but they can still see me decades, century or so after I'm gone, however that may be in a metaverse, in a hologram, whatever, I don't know. But I don't have that option. I don't even know who my great grandfather is. So we had to weigh those and we came to the decision, listen, let's write this book. Let's form this company. Let's help more people out. Let's give. And, wallahu khairan. Allah Ta'ala will take care of it. So are the conversations being had? Rarely. Are imams discussing it? Not much. And if Shaitan's number one need is to break up the family, what about the person that stands in the way of uniting the families? Is that somehow related to the same end goal that Shaitan has? Because our people, our leaders, is, no, it's against the law here. Or I might practice it, but I'm not going to do it for somebody else, not the masjid. Or they put up these barriers for something Al-Hakim allows. And if marriage is half your deen, that doesn't mean monogamy is half your deen. It means marriage. And in Islam, there are two forms. And we should be teaching this polygyny just as we teach it over here with monogamy. We call it marriage. The problem is that we don't have the resources, so we chose to become that resource. We have to invest a lot in ourselves to really get to that point. But the problem is I got a bone to pick. We all got a bone to pick with those who are supposed to be leaders of the community. How you can be a leader of the community, but you're mute on something that's half the deed? And people are complaining, women in particular, first wives in general. Well, polygamy's okay, but I support it when it's done right. You don't say I support marriage when it's done right. She doesn't ask me, and she said, you want something to eat? As long as it's cooked right, yeah. It'd be a problem. But if we don't know where to go to learn how to do things right, how to increase our emotional intelligence, our financial IQ, how to be able to communicate more effectively, then we're at a loss. So no, the conversations are not being had. That's one of the reasons we're out. And that's one of the reasons we also talk more about polygyny than just traditional marriage. We talk about monogamy and basic relationship things. But the reason it's polygyny because it doesn't get its fair airplay. But
it's interesting, subhanAllah, that you say that, because, I agree with you. There is definitely that, again, the cultural narrative is that in general polygyny is done badly, it's done wrong, it's oppressive to women. Not necessarily oppressive, it's exploitative. Actually, it's not the oppression, it's that women get exploited, that men don't give them their rights, or that men are just basically just playing with this thing. And I guess what you're saying is, well, that happens in monogamy too, which we know to be the case, but also because polygyny is almost seen as like the sort of the shameful cousin of monogamy. It's like, yeah, we know that it's allowed, but like you said, it's the but, isn't it? In the Quran, it says you may not, but, and I guess, like you said, it would, if it's done right, then, or if he's got the financial means, or what, there's caveats, right? There's caveats. But because of that, it isn't something that we can talk about openly. And it isn't something that people can learn about and actually get good at, because there's just not enough information on how to manage it. SubhanAllah. Sis, what you said, Coach Fatima, what you said about, knowing that your husband wanted to practice as much of the deen as possible. It reminds me of a question that somebody who was, studying Islam at the time and looking into Islam, and came across some conversations about polygyny that were, very negative and again, sort of first wife experience centric. and this person's question was, if polygyny is a part of Islam, as is a part of, what is halal, it's part of your legacy, it's part of our heritage. Our Prophet ﷺ had how many wives, right? It's known from the Muslims that we do this, right? All around the world. If a Muslim woman marries a Muslim man, why does she assume that he will not marry again? Why does it not make more sense for her to actually assume that he will marry again? Because polygyny is a thing. And I didn't have an answer for that, but it talks to what you were saying about our mindset and kind of how we even see our husband as our risk, right? He's mine. This is my boo. This is my situation. Our timeline is linked forever and ever, and that is how it's going to be. SubhanAllah.
The drama, the saga. I know. I've heard it all before. The thing is that I blame a lot of this princess universe where there's a princess and there's a prince, and it's just them, and they go off into the sunset. The West has perfected this idea of women, and he's gonna come save you, and it's just your prince, and he's come, and it's just you, and it's just you two in the world. We didn't allow our daughters to watch any Disney princess crap when they were little, because that's what it is, because they didn't need anybody to come rescue them. They could do that on their own. However, if you have the right husband, then you can just, reach these mountaintops together. But we didn't put that in their head. And they remembered our oldest daughter. She said to me, I'm so glad you and Albert didn't let us watch those things. Because now as a married woman, she understands. It's both of you got to help in the success of your marriage. You're both responsible for that, right? You're both responsible for your own self-care. So these things like these movies and the cartoons when they're married, you get indoctrinated with this crap. So that's what it is. And so you have to learn a lot of, and this stuff is toxic. They want to talk about poly's toxic, poly men are toxic, and the subsequence of toxic. No, let's talk about what planted this seed in your head, that this mind thing. So you'll say mine in America, in the West, say mine, but then you're supposed to share with me, but it's mine. That's crazy to me. So when we do that, we have to, as Muslims, We have to learn so much of this dunya that has been indoctrinated into our little boys, little girls, and then we just take it and we just roll with it like it's the truth. Like these people have not lied to us for centuries. So you're gonna take what somebody has a colonial mindset and try to wrap Islam around it. Don't work that way. I just did a video called "Get Your Weather Together." Whether you're gonna stay or not, whether you're gonna grow or not, what are you gonna do? It's up to you what you're gonna do, but don't expect it to be successful in polygyny when you don't want to even work, when you don't even want to try, when you don't even want to try it. Because see, then if you try, then you'll go, okay, well, I'm helping, I'm making this easy for him. Like that's a problem. That's a problem. People say, I don't want to make it easy for my husband.
I've heard that before. I've heard that before. I've heard that before.
Why don't you want to make it easy for him? Because I'll tell you one thing, it's not just being a spouse. You got to show up as someone's friend in that marriage sometimes. So if, for example, if Coach Nadir says, well, this person's sick or I'm needed over here, I don't start going, well, this is my night. You can't go to the hospital. This falls on my night. What's wrong with you?
Sis, you know what? This is the thing.
Have his friend show up and say, you know what, I understand that. And you go handle what you got to handle. And let me know where I can help. Right? Not this. You know, first of all, last time I checked, people did not own time, because if we did, I would have more and have less wrinkles up around my eyes. I would hurry up, fix that all the way up. But we don't own that. And we want to think we own the people. Because I tell the sisters, Coach Nyla and I have coached about this till we go in the face and some more stuff. If you could stop or make or own, then you would have stopped him from getting married. You put it out of his head. You do all that stuff. But you don't have the attribute, but you want it. And you fight hard to have it, to say, no, you can't, and it's my night, and well, what you gonna do? You broke anyway. I mean, there's so much stuff being said that is reaching to the point where some of these things being said, the suspicion, the accusation, the name calling, it's haram for you. And they need to understand the power of that and watch that mouth. Before you say something you wish you hadn't said, they won't let you apologize for it. One thing about burning up them bridges, and I've said it all the time, you got to cross back over them sometimes. So it's wise not to even burn them up in the first place. So you never know who you're gonna need. They don't want to shut up after this last point. But I remember I was having one of the worst days. It was the anniversary of my father's death, and Coach Nyla knows. And we have a family circle. We talk about all these different things at our family meeting. And it was one of the worst days, because that's the day where it all starts washing down and going, oh, I don't have a dad. Oh, he died. He's gone. And the kids are still talking to you about it because it's the anniversary, and she broke the circle and hugged me. See, you don't never know you're going to need. Because see, in year one, you're going, honey, child, I'm not going to let her hug me. And I'm barely going to talk to her, so whatever. But then you see the growth. You see that? So all those kids I got, and the husband I have, we share, us, then who broke the circle first? She did. She did, right? He caught the photo because he was on the other side. In the moment you go, okay, see that? You have to be careful what comes out of your mouth, because you're making dua and you don't even realize it. So you never know you're gonna meet some shit, is my point.
Okay. So Coach Fatima's thing to remember is watch your mouth. Shut up.
We know that that's the number one thing that leads people to Jahannam.
Speak on it.
We know that tongue, this thing in here, is the number one thing. If we actually knew that emotionally versus just intellectually, we would likely be a lot more silent and wrap that thing up a little bit more.
Well, the problem is they can't see it. They can't see the punishment yet. They can't see where it's distorting their judgment. If they could put their hands on it, if it was tangible, then they might be slightly more careful. But because nothing is around them that they can see, but they should have faith in the unseen, right? They don't remember that first and foremost, especially initial wives. I go, I know that's cute for around the house, but I feel this way. Sometimes it don't even matter about how you feel. It's what the Lord says you can have, what you can't have, and what the Sunnah of His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam practice. That's important. We can't bypass that or look over that or disrespect it. But there's so much disrespect in the Muslim community over something that is so simple and clear to be his sunnah is the problem. I asked this one sister, she was like, well, I don't know. I don't think I can handle that. He don't have to get married. I said, does he have to pray sunnah prayer? Well, I mean, he should.
Oh my, ooh.
She go, right?
Oh,
that's
no.
Sunnah, right?
She
But
dug that
religion.
hole right there. Oh, gosh.
Religion,
Wow.
If you want to keep the law, you don't feel free, but you're going to lose. You're going to lose.
Subhanallah. I think we need to take a minute of silence for everybody who just had to like just get told about themselves. No, because I think, I think for many of us who've done a lot of personal growth work, right? We understand the importance of regulating your emotions, right? Being in touch with your emotions is, I think, one level. Knowing how to regulate your emotions and almost, that state, choosing your emotional state and actively working on being in a particular emotional space and state. As you were talking, I'm able to kind of put myself in everyone's shoes. I think it must be the author in me, right? But I know the compulsion that we, maybe as women, as initial wives, have to control the situation.
You can't.
That's the worst part, I think. I think aside from the emotional side of, oh, my husband, I thought it was going to be this way. It's a lot of things, actually. If I can just pontificate for a second, I think, but because of what you mentioned, what we grew up with, the stories that we were told, the stories that we kind of, absorbed from the environment, the stories we told ourselves, the stories our parents told us, our expectation is that it will be, I will get married, I will have children with this man, and that's it. That is our life. Right? That's it. That's the happily ever after, and that's where the story ends. So we already have an expectation. And I always say, the gap between expectation and reality, the size of that gap is what breeds the frustration and the disappointment and the unhappiness, right? Because if you expected to be just the two of you forever and ever, soulmates, etc., then this is a huge breach of that contract that you made. It's like a violation. It is.
It's a setup, sister. It's what it is. We get lined up with this stuff.
Yeah.
You think of 90s music with the begging and pleading. My daughter, she actually teased me about Jodeci. I'm that old, but
no. We do not diss Jodeci on this channel. No.
She was like, it's so dramatic. And I told her, she's 24. I said, well, you know what? We weren't going to give the cookie up so easily. So they had to beg. So this was.
They don't beg anymore. That's true.
Lord have mercy. They do all that stuff because you had to. Because we weren't going to just jump down and get it.
Yeah.
So she went, oh, okay, I get it. She said, but it set y'all up though. I'm like, oh, it set us up.
Yeah.
Because it says it's just me and you,
Because that's what we understand now that love is, right? Love is how they speak in the songs. Love is, I can't live without you. Love is, you are my everything. You are my world. I'm nothing without you. What is it? Without you, baby, I'm going over the edge.
Sweat. He was the maker of the decade, right? So, yes, absolutely.
So, yeah.
It is, but that's part of the indoctrination. That's part of the mind. I ain't sharing it because you didn't beg me, right? You're on your knees, right? And a lot of people that are from that time remember that, and they still want it, even if they become Muslim. Well,
that's the standard. That's the standard.
I'm going to control this whole narrative because that is what was dumped in our laps, that we were given the power then, but it's a setup. It's such a setup because then you have to think about, you don't own anybody's life though. We get married, we think we are part of each other's lives, but we're not each other's life. That's the part that makes me upset when sisters go, that's my husband. Yes, boo-boo, he's your husband, absolutely. And he might be somebody else's husband too, careful, because you don't get to control it. I don't want to control it, because if I could control his life, then I'd say, okay, if we can control somebody's existence, then we love them so much, but we really let them die though. We let them go. And I'm like, it wouldn't be so easy to let someone go and I've loved them this long. That would be hard for me to do. And we'd sit there and watch them wither away before we let them go. But you can't leave me. But Allah's in control. He breaks that relationship forever. But would we have enough self-control to just break the relationship forever? I don't know about that. I don't know.
You know, when you say that, it was making me think of, say that the initial stages, it wasn't what you wanted. It wasn't what you signed up for, right? Like most women in the West, in modern day, I'd say, most women do not sign up for a marriage thinking there will be another one or two or three later on down the line, right? So, okay, fair enough. But as you were talking, I wondered if you had had your wish in that early stage, if you could have changed it, if you could have said, this is not happening. He is not married to Coach Nyla. And you could have, as you were saying, you know, you had the control, you had the power to change it. Look at everything that wouldn't have happened. Like this reality that you have, all of it, the growth, the iman, the family, the children, the relationship between the three of you, the business, the coaching, the teaching, the impact, right? The legacy, none of it would have happened if you had had your way in your little like lizard brain thinking, And I wonder how many of us think of that. You know, I could be blocking barakah.
Block my blessing, yeah.
Go ahead, sis.
Because it's really interesting that you say that too. And I, of course, I feel like sometimes I'm around to kind of give the subsequent wives a little voice of that, you know, that people don't hear.
A big voice.
A big voice, sis. Don't be putting yourself down. It's a big voice, mashallah.
That people don't get, that incoming wives have those things too. That we have to wonder if we had our way of saying, well, you know, I want her to be happy, so let me fall back and divorce her.
Wow.
Have either, because I went through that a number of times. I'm like, you know what? If I feel like I'm hurting somebody or breaking somebody's marriage up, if I'm doing these things, because that was a narrative that was around me. That's what society was saying. That was what things. And it was like, I don't want to be that person. I don't want people to look at me as that person. So
why don't I just step back?
I should go back to being a single parent, doing the things that I want. I mean, not doing the whole dinner like that because it was stressful. But doing the things that other people wanted, you know, that they saw other me doing. It's like, okay, when you do this, you did that. I remember a comment came through and it said, it was talking about, I think, a different woman, but they said, why don't you go find a family that want to take you instead of, you know, like it's exactly like how about, you know, now the husband and they want to get married and do things, but the initial wife she just was not having it. But the people were commenting, was like, well, she's not happy with it, then why don't you find a family that will take you in? I'm like, that's not how that works. You know, you don't go around like, you know, hey, right? You know, it's just a second wife, subsequent wife adoption agency. That's not how, you know. So when it comes to it, it's like, you know, we've had our things too. It's just not heard about because we don't talk about it because people don't want to hear it. But when it does come out, they're like, oh, wow, I never thought of it that way.
You're human?
Yeah, like, wait, you're the whole rapper.
It's funny. Yeah, exactly. You're subhanAllah, you're so right. You're so right. And I think, you know, this speaks to, you know, like the first wife centric narrative, right? That the second one, like whatever she goes through, who cares? Like she chose that. You know, even the husband as well, actually. It doesn't matter how much he struggles. He should struggle. He chose it. That's his fault. He has to deal with it now, you know. And, you know, as Coach Nadir, as you said, you know, she's human, you're human, you know, you're all human beings on this journey, right? And I think what you said, Coach Nyla, about, you know, as a second wife or as a subsequent wife, when things may not be going as smoothly as you'd like, even you yourself feeling, maybe I caused this and maybe I should just remove myself, you know, from the situation and let them go back to how they were before. They were happy before I came along. And I think this really speaks to one of the one of the central messages of this whole marriage conversation series, which is marriages succeed when we have the right intention and we commit. And I think it's the commitment piece that is becoming eroded in today's society. I think people are in marriage for a feeling, they're in marriage for a look, for a vibe, for the good times. And, you know, I think that somewhere along the way, the message was lost. Maybe it's the boomers, we can blame them. But the message was lost that the marriage works when you commit. Because when you commit, even if you have a difficult chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, if you stick with it and you keep working at it, you will get a shift in chapter 5 and then 6 and 7 and 8 up until chapter 20. You could be going back and forth, but the point is you'll get to chapter 20 if you commit. Whereas nowadays I feel, you know, the messaging is, if it's not working, choose you.
Right.
Choose yourself.
You
know?
You know, one of the things that you said is very important because it kind of goes along with my motto with coaching, right? Because I'm, you know, coach not there. I'm coach not there that time. And I'm the coach, you know, the little motto is, you know, coach not there. I'm the coach that helps people get their shit together. Because it starts here. You have to have that mind shift. Mm-hmm. The challenge comes when you say commit, is to commit to the work. Yes. Commit to the growth. You know, understanding that you might be the problem. You know what I'm saying? And if we look at ourselves as the problem first, we have to accept accountability. Ooh. That's very important, because just like we're doing the work, like Coach Nala says all the time, success only comes before work in the dictionary. So, that's it. That's it.
I like that one. That's good.
When you look at beliefs, and I was thinking as you were speaking and we're talking about the first life-centric model and why such things can have so much pain. If you think about Velcro, right? Velcro is like our beliefs. We get fed these things and ideas from movies and people and parents and teachers and loved ones and religious communities, and that Velcro comes in and sticks in really, really tight, really strong, really firm, right? With no empirical data to really support it, just people's opinions or feelings or thoughts or whatever we come across, right? But when something begins to challenge that and pull it apart, it's not a Band-Aid. It's Velcro is strong. But then you start talking about a different form of marriage. Oh my God, now it's happening to me and all my beliefs and all these things have to be pulled apart to see reality. That can be really painful to apart.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But we're adults. We have to have those conversations. We have to admit our flaws and who we are, where we are. We must do that. If you don't, you're going to fail at any and everything. So you could absolutely be in a polygynous marriage where one marriage is going good, another one might be struggling, another one might be on the brink of divorce, another one might be incredible if you have 4, right? Because each of them are individual. And one of the success things, I was talking with my wives recently because we're coming out with some different trainings that we're doing in 2022. And depending on when the audience is watching, this might already be out, right? But when you see us, you see 3 of us, right? When you look at us, you really don't know that there's actually 7 different spheres going on. All right? I'm Coach Nadir, Coach Fatima, Coach Nyla. We have our own individual selves, our own individual identities, and our own individual authenticity. That's 3 circles, if you will, right? 3 spheres. Now, Coach Fatima and I, over 26 years ago, formed this 3rd one between us, this kind of shared marital identity. And that shared marital identity has all kind of thoughts, ideas, concepts, written, unwritten, all of that stuff there, right? So Coach Nala and I, 11 years ago, our 3rd one formed kind of up here. You know, like I'm just making an animation. Right? So now we have this shared marital identity, these ideas, these thoughts, these concepts, these beliefs about each other and what marriage should be, right? So that's 6. Then they also have one also as co-wives, whether or not they're polar, like I'm not talking to, don't want to know, I'm different, whatever, or we be friends, or at least we're working toward it. So there are 7 different identities that are operating just with the 3 of us. The sooner we're able to recognize and disassociate a little bit to understand these things, we can work on ourselves to have that growth, because if we're working on ourselves to become better, if I'm working on me to become better in different areas of my life, in communication and leadership and finances, I automatically become better in all these different areas for everybody. In my parenting, for clients, for all of this stuff. They become better for people that they coach and doing counseling, all of this. So when you say committing to that work, you can't beat that. We have to only start with us and the things we actually can control.
SubhanAllah. 100%. I love that. I love that. Barakallahu feek. Okay, so what are, let's narrow it. What is one thing that you would advise polygynous families to avoid, either as members of a polygynous family or just as a family as a whole? One thing to avoid.
I was the comparison syndrome. I'm comparing by your marriage.
I like that. Yeah.
I think one of the major things is allow everyone room to evolve and who they need to become is a big one for me. Because sometimes we want room to evolve, but we don't allow it for anyone else. And that's a big problem. It's huge. We don't allow the husband, the co-wife, the children, nobody, yourself, enough space to learn and make mistakes, because you're going to make them, and learn from them. Don't hold them over people's heads. That always bothered me, because then you form a pattern. All these patterns get formed, and then you look up marriage over, kids hate you. Yeah, I mean, it's just a wreck. So just avoid stopping someone else's evolution, I would say.
MashaAllah.
I would say avoid being weak. Avoid being weak. It's easy to be weak. Take the cowardly road, or not, be one to feel uncomfortable, practice avoidance. Avoid avoidance. Deal with it.
Avoid avoidance.
Deal with it. Address it. Get it man on as a man. Go ahead, move forward directly, do what you got to do, but avoid weakness. All right, because weakness is a choice. You can be courageous and fail at something, but you still respect that.
Right.
But don't be weak and succeed at something that still don't respect you. So avoid weakness.
I really like that. I wonder, I've said before, and maybe Coach Naila and Fatima can corroborate this, but with the insecurities sometimes that can come out between the women, either the initial wife or the subsequent wife, exactly as Coach Naila said, it's the comparison, isn't it? I'm not, we haven't been married as long as them, or we don't have as many children, or, she knows him better, or she's the new hot thing, whatever the case may be. And I've always found it to be very useful for each wife to play her, what's the word? When you have people in a game, Coach Nadia, you know this, like you have people in a game, play position, that's it. To play your position, right? Because every one of you has her own unique strengths in the situation, and probably her own unique connection as well with the husband, right? And her home has its own dynamic that is unique, and it's special to her and whatever she's creating on her end of things. And when sisters have brought this up, I've always said sort of, play your position, play to your strengths. Don't compare what you have and what you've got going on with, your co-wife, because all that will happen is you're going to feel like you're lacking somehow. But the reality is that you have strengths and she has strengths. You've got great stuff going for you as she does, right? Play your position. Do you think that's good advice to give to co-wives?
I think it's a great, I think it's great advice. This is the funny thing you said that, because Coach Naila has this history and everything like that. I think it was like, okay, well, instead of figuring out how I can communicate with him in a way, I'm like, okay, well, she communicated with him in this type of way, so maybe he's used to this type of communication, whatever, right? But being able to see these different things and playing your position and knowing what works for you and for your marriage. This is the interesting thing. What it's done for me has even allowed me at times, because I know certain strengths of hers and how she can get through to him on certain things. I can actually go to her and say, what did I do? Could this happen? And seriously, like you probably shouldn't have said that. But she's like, you know what, I'm gonna talk to him. You know, whatever. And it's really cool. And it's like, it's still the line in the marriage, but it's still succeeding as a unit, succeeding as a team, where it's like, okay, we want to win all around the board. So if I'm having some issues in communicating some type of wants, needs, or something like that, and I know that she can do it, or she can kind of like, oh, wait, okay, this is a trigger word for him, and you use that trigger word, and that's and certain things, like, because we have a relationship together, and we have a friendship together, where there can be times where she's like, well, you know what, she's like, yeah, because just like just draw big and okay, we good?
Yeah, go.
Okay, so because he is an INTJ, and he has a whole bunch of other stuff going on, he may be totally oblivious to what I was feeling, what I said, anything like that, right? But then another voice comes like, yeah, this is the feeling. This is what a feeling person feels like.
Right.
Not to take away from that, like he doesn't have any feelings because he got the tea, because he definitely has them. It's just it's more of a logical standpoint. So being able to have that. And I remember listening to one of the interviews that he did with one of the brothers, and it was like, do your wives get together and kind of like gang up on you type of thing with
that's what it sounds like to me. There's a tag team going on here.
But we don't. It's more of a, we can work together. And that's the thing where we even talk about when co-wives, that other sphere that you talk about, of having that, whether you want to be together or want to know each other or not, is so much benefit in doing that for the whole family dynamic, and to win. Like, we talk about outstanding personal relationships, not okay relationships, not it's high relationships. It's like outstanding personal relationships. You want to make sure that if that's what you're striving to have and striving to become, then you want to do that all around the board. And of course, as I did talk about before, is working within yourself. Yes. So because we've done the work, I can't go to my co-wife without feeling like, well, I don't want her, knowing that I'm vulnerable like this.
Yeah.
So yesteryear. So it's just pretty much, hey, we want to win, and we want to see each other win and see each other succeed. And I think once you have that mindset, that mind shift, and we were talking about before, that you will definitely see so many benefits in polygyny. And they totally outweigh the negative that people are trying to put out there about it.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Guys, listen, as always, it's just been such a pleasure to just be in your space and spend time with you and, hear your words of wisdom, mashallah. What would you think, or what would you say is the future of polygyny then, in our modern day, in our modern Muslim society? Like, what does the future hold?
It reminds me of a story. That question actually reminds me of a story. I'm going to be brief with it, but there was a guy, he was a track star named Benjamin Banneker. And when he was running in the mid-1900s, his goal was to beat the 4-minute mile. Nobody had ever done it before. It was before they beat the 4-minute mile. And people thought it was crazy. There were actual cardiologists saying that if a human being was able to run quicker than a 4-minute mile, their heart would explode. Okay? Wow. Cardiologists, licensed doctors, right? So all of this stuff going on, and he had a goal to beat it. And people thought he was crazy until he wasn't, and he beat it. Now, he beat it. Now, all of a sudden, that opened up the belief that other people can do it. So within the following year, I think it was about 58 or 59 people, then there were hundreds, then there were thousands. Now, high school track guys, wow. If you're not doing a 4-minute mile, now it's looked as there's a problem. Wow. That's the bar if you really want to make this track team.
SubhanAllah.
So what has to happen is somebody has to be on that track field. Somebody has to run and beat that 4-minute mile and go and help people understand that negative news spreads 13 times faster than positive news. So if all you hear are horror stories, turn on the news. Negative news is going to sell. You're not going to hear about all the positive charities, all the celebrations, all the good stuff. You're not going to hear about that, but you're going to hear about the negative stuff because it gets a negative reaction from you and it sells more. And in the case of polygyny, it sells more that you shouldn't be doing it. Even though it's noble, it's honorable when you are working to win. So we believe that, you know, without saying personal relationships and what we're doing with Let's Talk Polygyny Uncensored, that we can get information out, we can empower and equip those who are interested in it, or those who are curious enough to start to go ahead and win. You know, so we know the impact that we are making, and we're grateful for that and the blessings that come along with that. But we believe that the future of polygyny should be honored and stacked up a whole lot more than the future of same-sex marriage, which tends to get a lot more agreement, unfortunately, amongst our community.
Wow.
There's something Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed, as in 2, 3, or 4.
That's deep. And I think on that note, inshallah, we can wrap up. Tell us, of course, we've heard you have a YouTube channel, and guys, everything will be linked in the description, inshallah. Tons of amazing content on the YouTube channel. How else can people work with you or learn from you guys?
Do a regular thing. We all three of us offer coaching and counseling, so you can visit for details CoachFatima.com for more about my coaching and counseling.
CoachFatima.com.
TheCoachNazir.com, or of course,
excuse me. MashaAllah.
And OutstandingPersonalRelationships.com. And you can reach all of us there. You know, you have questions, you want to remain anonymous. We do have some Facebook groups. We do have a number of different support systems and things in place. So that's where you can reach us and Google us, Outstanding Personal Relationships. And we look forward to, again, empowering more people, sharing our voice, and also in recognizing that future generations that come from this dozen children that we have, and a lot of those best,
MashaAllah.
They will also be able to get this same information. It may benefit them and our extended families when that time comes, inshallah.
Bi-idhnillah. May Allah bless your family as it grows. It's an ummah already. Inshallah, it's going to be an even bigger ummah than the next generation comes along, inshallah. Just as long as we're invited to the cookout, it's fine. But, you know, it's always a pleasure to sit with you guys. jazakAllahu khairan so much for your generosity and, you know, for the courage that it must have taken, and I'm sure it does take, to show up like this in this space. Because as you said, you know, it's not a popular conversation. It's an uncomfortable conversation. So for you as a family to make this decision to put yourselves out there and have the uncomfortable conversations, it's extremely admirable, and may Allah bless you and reward you for all the work, and you know, and everyone you get to impact along the way, mashallah. Guys, you heard it here first. You know what you need to do. You know you need to like the video. You know you need to subscribe to the channel so that you can continue watching these marriage conversations, and tell us in the comments what you took from this exchange with my wonderful guests this particular time around. And inshallah they'll be back again. Bi-idhnillah. Guys, jazakallahu kullu khair. Thank you so much for being here. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.